Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy. Skype's been kind of strange, so I'm hoping it's not going to be flickering during the live stream and we get some good sound quality, but we will see. I'm still looking on some improvements for that over the next coming weeks. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, if I didn't say that already. Here with my co-hosts, Rick David and Matty B. Quick update before we hit the old high tempo. Matty B, got your team up to 36 in the state, closing in on that top 25. So
we're getting there little by little.
What are you, 3-1 now?
3-1. Heading into homecoming.
So very good. Very good. Use that to kick off the old show. Let's get into the mailbag first, actually. The big one started here probably by old Pittsburgh Jeff, who was on Twitter. I don't even know. That's Jeff Meyer. He does Spacer Laces. He's been pretty active on Twitter under his new name, Pittsburgh Jeff. He started to see that Antonio Brown tweeted out to an old Pittsburgh staffer, trade me, which then started all this other stuff about Antonio Brown being traded. So, question for you guys. Will Antonio Brown get traded? Rick, start with you.
No. It's easy, no. You don't trade the number one receiver during the middle of the season. You trade him during the offseason. And here's the thing. The question should be more, what do you do? I mean, I was listening to Pittsburgh Homer Radio on my way home, and they're like, suspend him, suspend him. I agree with that. You do suspend him in a way.
Why would you suspend him?
I would suspend him just because he's crying on the sidelines. He cries more than a hardball. That's how you determine if the guy's a crybaby. Hardball. Does he cry more than a hardball? Yes. Does he cry more? Yes. Does he throw tantrums? Yes. See that Gatorade cooler video from last year? Yeah, I would suspend him. You're going to lose to Tampa Bay. Let's be honest. You're going to lose to Tampa Bay.
Rick, I'll be honest. I don't even see a win in the first 5 games at the least.
I mean, you're going to lose to – you tied Cleveland. You get beat by a rookie. Remember, Dick LeBeau against rookie quarterbacks. This is going to be where I'm going with this Steelers conversation. 17-1. He only lost once to a rookie quarterback, Dick LeBeau. Keith Butler, who knows, he loses to everybody. And he looks clueless on defense. Our offensive coordinator looks like the guy who goes to high school football games and sits at the edge of the stands and everything and tells you how he played in 1978 and how the players were bigger, faster, and stronger, and he's reminiscing. It's like, get over it. Randy Fichtner or whatever his name is, he could go be selling Dr. Peppers at a college game with that guy, on commercials. I mean, terrible, and they have no control. There's no control. Did you see Fichtner start yelling at him and say, hey, give me your helmet? No. Where's Mike Tomlin? Who knows? Probably trying out to be Wesley Snipes' body double or something in the next, Blade movie or something. I don't know. And it's just like, where's any control? There's no control. You could show up when you want to. You could demand trades on Twitter. I mean, heck, I already presented the topic to them. I feel that I should be traded to Spaces or Laces because Penn State banter would actually be great for Jeff, and I could see where that could go in that conversation. But, I mean, no, he's not going to be traded. They're not going to suspend him. He's going to play. He's going to cry. We're going to lose to Tampa in a Monday night game.
It looks like the video might have froze. Of course, having some Skype issues.
I'm going to say this. Last week, I guess top fantasy player was Ben Roethlisberger. I guessed it right on a website. You can check my Twitter if you don't believe me. I'm going to guess this week. I'm guessing Ryan Fitzpatrick will be your top player in fantasy. Right there. Mark it down. He's available in a lot of leagues still. I don't know why. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it doesn't matter because these guys are still going to cry. And your defensive backs remind me of, like I don't know, you playing rookie league on Madden. Come on.
Matt, what do you think after that? Filibuster, I guess. I don't even know what to say.
I'm running for political office. Vote for me.
Well, the short answer is no. They're not gonna trade him right now. Do I think that they should trade him? It depends on what they could get for him. I definitely think it's not out. It's crazy to think that he's so much better than than anyone else, because if you look at Pittsburgh's history of wide receivers and you look at the guys that they've gone through, from Plexico Burress to Santonio Holmes, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, great wide receivers have come and gone through Pittsburgh, and they've done nothing once they've left Pittsburgh. Why? Because the common denominator is Ben Roethlisberger. And when we talk about the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and we're talking about Brady and we're talking about Ben, those guys, they make the talent around them better. There's a reason that these guys don't go on to other teams and have a continued level of success. I think you kind of those stats are inflated because you have to worry about Roethlisberger running around and then throwing a 70-yard bomb that plays into those guys' strengths. So I don't think that they'll trade him right now, but should the right offer come along, I think they should entertain it. Because to me, I think the locker room issues and the things that are going on in the media, I think that there are locker room and there are leadership issues that they haven't had since that core group with Joey Porter and Hines Ward and Jerome Bettis. When those guys left, I think there was a void of leadership where these younger guys that were demanding these higher salaries and contracts came into play. And for guys that are absorbing this kind of money, there should be a level of leadership that's just not happening.
Yeah, I agree with your take, Matt, that they're not really going to trade him. That's for sure. And I think that you can point to Mike Wallace, because he was the last big one that I can remember that everyone said he can stretch the field. It doesn't matter. Once he gets his big contract, he's going to be a star no matter where he went. And he's been pretty much a bust. I think a lot of people discount the fact that Ben can keep a play alive, like you stated, and still throw a 70-yard bomb that most quarterbacks can't do. They can hit the deep ball, but to give your receiver that extra time and then still be able to find them downfield, I think it inflates the numbers and makes these receivers look like they're deep threats when really they might not be able to get that separation. So would it be interesting to see if he could do that? Yes. Is it something that I would bet on him being successful at? Probably not. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. He's a competitor. He wants to win. You don't trade him. And if you did, you need to get some secondary help on the defense. Good Lord. Actually, you really just need some speed on that defense, because the run defense is just as bad. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I think the consensus here is no, they're not going to trade him. So keep an eye on that. I don't even think he really wants one, to be honest. He knows that he's in a good franchise. Would he really want to waste his career in somewhere like Cleveland? I doubt it. Let's get in the high tempo. Matt, we'll come back to you. What do you got this week?
Don't really have a story per se for my high tempo, but I just watching some of the NFL games, I was really surprised at the level of difference that you see from some of these teams. The teams that are more willing to embrace some of the modern things that we've talked about on our show. The teams like Kansas City, the Philadelphias, the Colts. They're having success moving the football, scoring points, doing things. And I think it's interesting to see now you have this change of guard, so to speak, where there's these newer coaches that are embracing the run pass options. They're doing different things with jet motions, all the stuff that are making the college game as excitable as what it is. And then you compare that to the stick in the mud teams like the Seattle Seahawks, for example, that aren't embracing some of these changes, and they're just getting absolutely throttled.
Yeah, it's going to be a change all over. It's going to be slow. Like, you're not able to just throw a spread offense in to the game and have everyone adopt it just because the defenses are so fast. So the scary thing is it's affecting the Steelers' defense, and that was their strength for so long. So I think here in Pittsburgh, you're going to see the fans be like, they're not going to understand it. But Rick, what do you got this week for high tempo?
Mine would be, finally, we could quit talking about crybaby wide receivers, and we could start talking about hockey. Hockey is back. We got preseason hockey starting tonight. So it's great that the hockey season's back. We have a lot of good teams. I really like what San Jose's done. They're going to make a huge power play with Carlson now on that roster. So hockey is back. So if you don't want to listen to crybabies and people, we know more of what they're doing on Ski-Doos. We can watch hockey because they're all showing up. There's no holdouts. And trust me, if you cry in that league, you're probably getting put into the boards. Let's be honest. So hockey's back, folks.
I don't know, Rick. Did you watch that Flyer series we had last year?
Yeah.
A lot of crybabies in that. A lot of half fights there. Yeah,
but at least you could fight it out on the field. I mean, anymore. Geez, I think if I sneeze on a quarterback, I think I got 15. I got a roughing the passer, and I probably got one more, and I'm probably going to be out of there. So I better not have a double sneeze, or I'm probably in the locker room, and I'll probably be in the parking lot with Vontae Davis. Probably get in my car, and we're going out to like Outback to go eat for the rest of the night.
Well, you have a point there, because I was going to bring in, for my high tempo, I had a couple different things, but that's a good segue into this one. Did you guys see the Arizona State game on Saturday? And it's my fault. I messed up the games. I recommended Arizona State. I thought they were playing Washington, but that's this week. But if you still tune in for Arizona State, you saw a classic. They got upset by San Diego State. There was, 10 seconds left, and they threw up a pass down near the end zone. They were down 7, so they were driving a tie. Their receiver makes a catch. Clearly a helmet to helmet. The dude was leading to try to break up the pass. They review it, say that it was targeting, but also say that after he went down with the guy, the ball touched the ground. And so they ruled it an incomplete pass. Basically, instead of having the ball for one shot to win it or tie it from like the 4-yard line, they'd moved it all the way back to the 35. Did you guys see that? And what are your thoughts?
I'll let Coach go.
Matt, you're shaking your head.
Number one, I didn't see it because I was in too much of a depression from the noon game. But I don't know. Refs taking control of the game in a situation like that, I don't like that. I'd rather let some of that go, let the players play, let it play out, and see how it ends on the last play in a competitive game.
Well, I say, I get the hit. You're going to review the hit. They ejected the guy, but what happened was they moved it, and I think if they're going to do that, if they're going to rule it incomplete after they were, I know it was under 2 minutes, they might have whistled down anyway. But because it was a penalty, if they really want these helmets to stick, they need to make it a spot foul like the NFL. I think that at this point, that's the only solution. Because why would you not, on any Hail Mary now, just take the guy's head off if he gets his hands on the ball? That's basically what they did. They just destroyed him because they knew he had a catch. And then, of course, they had to throw one up in the end zone then with 4 seconds left and didn't get it. Take him out. There's no negative to it. I think the NCAA is going to be reviewing it, and I didn't even see that was a recommendation by anyone. Make it a spot foul. Then you know, because if you're going to go up for a Hail Mary and you're going to get destroyed as a receiver, make it about protecting the player. The other play that I had for high tempo was the North Texas-Arkansas game. The North Texas guy fakes a fair catch signal. I don't know if you guys saw that one. He kind of like shimmied.
Yep.
I watched it a couple of times, but the camera view was it was moving with the ball, so you could barely see what he actually did. Catches the ball, just stands there. The Arkansas guy, I think in the video, and the player after the game said he walked over to the ref and said, why didn't you blow your whistle to the guy? And then the receiver just took off and ran all the way down. Well, the NCAA said they are going to do that rule where it's going to be an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty or something. That's what they're looking at because that rule is in there for player safety. Because if they ran that once and the guy called a fair catch next time, you better believe that Arkansas, if I was the coach, they would have been laying him out. Because you can never be too sure. They return one for a touchdown.
Funny
Coach. Go ahead. What do you think?
You say that. That was when I saw that was the first thing I said to my wife is some poor kick returner is going to get absolutely decapitated now because of this rule, because they're going to say that they're not going to fair catch and run it to the house. Someone's going to get drilled.
Oh, I would have did it the rest of the game against North Texas. If you're going to throw that out, that's kind of Bush League. I understand that you're playing Arkansas. Arkansas is complete shit. You don't need to do trick plays to beat them. North Texas blew them out like 44-10 or something like that. So you didn't even need that play. So I don't know. It's going to be weird. You can't say player safety on one hand, have the targeting call, which is clearly player safety, and then not look out for the best interests of the game. Rick, you have any thoughts on that stuff?
I have two. First off, I never understood, even in high school and in college, why pass interference is a spot foul. When my high school was playing and there was a pass over 20 yards, our guys always got burned. So they just took the guy out. They took the wide receiver out. They just tackled him. And then it was spot foul, 15-yard penalty. So we actually, instead of giving up a touchdown, we only gave up 15 yards. Is that still true in high school today, Matt? It's a 15-yard penalty?
I thought it was 10.
Yeah, I thought it was just 10.
So why not just tackle the guy? If you're burned, if you're the quarterback and you get burned, just tackle him. It makes no sense in college and high school. I don't understand that rule at all. It should be a spot place foul, just like it is.
Well, one of the rules this year that changed that I think is actually helping us is the face guarding rule. Now at the high school level for us, if you're allowed to face guard as long as you don't make contact with the wide receiver. So I think that's helping opening up some plays. And some officiating crews, they're allowing a little bit more than others, but I think that's something that's definitely helping the defenses by being able to have players turn back around and face guard without having to look back for the ball like you do at college or the pro level. That's something the high school level they're helping us with.
Are you saying they allow it now or they're not allowing it?
They are allowing it. You are allowed to face guard and just run up to a guy. As long as you don't make physical contact with the receiver, they're allowing face guarding now, where in years past that would have been a penalty.
Well, that's strange because the face guarding rule has always been in college. You're allowed to face guard, where it was the NFL. So I'm surprised it took that long to make it. If anything, high school rules should be closer to the college rules than have some weird NFL rules thrown in there. So probably a good move.
Absolutely.
You guys have anything else for high tempo?
Yeah.
I texted you guys a bunch of stuff, but we might as well save it for later on in the show. Let's get in the Steel City update. Rick, I had some banter with you before we started. Pirates eliminated tonight, or when tomorrow? They basically need
either be tonight or tomorrow. They're going to be eliminated.
They need to win out. They need the Cubs to lose, and then either the Brewers or the Cardinals or some variation of those two, and continuously. So they would have to go 0 for the next couple weeks or whatever. So they'll be eliminated soon. What are your thoughts on the team? You told me you were excited. This is an exciting month in Pirate baseball.
Because this is the revenge time frame. Right now, Pirates are tied 1-1 in the ninth inning against the Royals. So they're probably going to extra innings. Milwaukee was one of the teams, like the Reds, I've said before, when these two teams were down, Pirates couldn't beat them, and that's what kept them into that one-game wild card playing game. They could do the same thing again to Milwaukee. Right now, Milwaukee's 3 up on the first wild card spot. If they sweep them this weekend, that could hurt Milwaukee. And you got to think it's not a long shot possibility because they just took 2 out of 3 against them last weekend. So this is a shot where they could either knock them out of that the wild card game, or knock them out of it. They could keep them there or knock them out of it. So I'm a little bit excited. I'm hoping the Pirates pitching has come along. It seems like they're actually hitting somewhat good. And I mean, I'm excited in a way to watch the Pirates because I don't have to watch Jordy Mercer and Josh Harrison and Cervelli play anymore. The less I see of those 3, the better I feel about the Pirates, because they're not going to be here next year. They're too old. They're too injury prone, and they're just a waste of money. Let's be honest. They're dead money. Poker, that's a term, dead money. When you're losing, when you throw those guys out there, yeah, you're losing. You're losing.
Rick, why are we talking about money, though? There's no salary cap.
Because they're making too much money. We can use that money. We do need a power hitter.
What are we going to use that money on?
We do need we need somewhat of a good good veteran pitcher in the rotation, maybe a left-hander even, to be honest with you.
Maybe we can get Bartolo Colon.
I mean, Bartolo Colon's still looking to play. I mean, there's probably some other old Yankees that are probably looking at contracts, Phil Hughes, that we can even sign. I mean, we've had A.J. Burnett. Nova's going to be gone after this year, too. I mean, we could use some help there, and those are spots. The bullpen looks good. I mean, I'm giving the Pirates MVP award already tonight, and I'm giving it to Kyle Crick, best player on the team. You can't argue it. He's had a great season. He's proved it every night. And he's been there since the beginning. He's had a great season. Kyle Crick should have been the All-Star. He's definitely the MVP.
I think the stats prove that the bullpen was great all year.
Yeah.
But you can't score runs with that shitty lineup, and you can't get starters to go more than 5 innings and change. So I just don't even know what to do at this point. They're not going to attract quality starters. If they bring in a guy like Bartolo Colon, I can't even understand how mad I would be at that point. So
I'd be okay. They're spending money on a guy at least. They want to get a player here. You got
the Yinzer mindset. It's not about the money, bro. We don't see the money.
Big money.
As fans, we don't see the money though.
To go spend Scherzer money to get him. He's going to be on your lower end, which is good. And I mean, he's fulfilling a spot until Mitch Keller or somebody else is ready out of AAA. I mean, Clay Holmes is not the answer. He's Tyler Glass now 2.0. I mean, big, tall right-hander who can't find home plate. And when he does, it ends up in left field.
That's what they need to do. They need to do what the Braves did back in the 90s and identify 3 to 5 top pitching prospects and bring them all up at the same time. And then when some of them kind of go haywire, I think, did they bring in Steve Avery or Denny Nagel? I thought they brought in a veteran to kind of fill out the lineup. But they had another guy that had fell off. It wasn't only Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox. I know they traded for one of them.
They traded for Maddox. Glavine and Smoltz came up through the system. Avery came up through the system. Nagel was a trade. That would have been with the Pirates.
Yes.
Of course.
Zane Smith was there, and he was a trade, too. And I'm going to forget some of the other names that would have been in that rotation. At one point, Mike Hampton was in that rotation at one point. So that was at the tail end when he was there. So, I mean, there's different ways you could do it, and that's maybe what they need to do. Is because Chris Archer's not looking like he's good. He's 1-3 with a 6 ERA. This guy didn't pan out.
He didn't even look good coming in. That was all marketing hype when they brought him in. I think we went over his stats on the show. He's been declining since 2013 or something similar. So it just doesn't make any sense that would be your high-profile guy. And then compared to the other pitchers that were traded for, he was the worst of the lot. So typical Pittsburgh fashion, though, or Pirates fashion, I don't want to lump in the whole city. They find a guy that has a recognizable name, and they market the hell out of him. They had him go into a Steelers training camp and all kind of other crazy stuff. And then whenever he doesn't pan out, they're like, we tried. We tried. Time to rebuild, guys. So, I don't know. This is depressing. Let's get into some hockey here with the Penguins. They start what? I had the exact date, but I know I'm going to blow it.
They started tonight. Tonight was their first preseason game. They went to Buffalo.
Well, isn't the regular season like 27 to 30 days away or something like that?
It's even closer than that.
I can't remember what the first game I had it, and of course I blew it because we had that hurricane mess.
It starts the first week of October.
Yeah, very tough to do research whenever you're doing that kind of stuff. So a lot closer than that. But what do you think? You think they're going to make a run?
I like what they got. I really do. They still got the offensive weapons that they had. Sprong's now going to be up a whole year. I really like what he did in the minors. I mean, I think that'll be somebody that helps them out. I mean, between those, their first 3 lines, they have a lot of good players that are going to fit in there. You got Sprong, Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Hornquist.
Hey,
Jake
what's your
Gensel.
thoughts on Kessel, by the way?
He did the same old shit he did last.
Oh my God! Did you see that quote?
I love that. So what'd he do? Eat hot dogs and hang out the pole?
That's what I had in my back pocket, Rick. I had it ready to throw that out, and you had to beat me to it. Jeez.
But I think he'll be fine. I think he has something to prove. I really do. I think a lot of people had him in Pittsburgh being the guy traded, which they didn't make a big trade this summer. Really, they didn't. They did some signings, but they didn't do a big trade. So I see him being fine. My hope is that the second line has, I'm hoping it has Malkin and Kessel back on it. Crosby will definitely be on the first line. He'll probably be with Getzel and maybe Sprong. Maybe Zach Astor-Reese could be that third guy. I don't know. I mean, those guys could be the loser and go down to the third line. I mean, you got a lot of things that are going to be mixing and matching here. Tonight's game wasn't on TV pretty much in a lot of places. In my market, it wasn't. I could have got it in Buffalo because Buffalo doesn't have a major league team. But, I mean, they didn't throw out much. Getzel played. The Smith played. Jari played. That's going to be a nice competition, too. Does the Smith or Jari play? Because somebody's got to be the backup to Murray. So I'm going to watch that one, too. So I think that's going to be an interesting one, too, in training camp.
I think Gensel's the only guy that I was really excited about in the playoffs last year. So it'll be exciting having him with another year under his belt.
Yeah, and especially if he's back with Crosby, that's going to be a good thing. And if you're a fantasy person, you got to think about Getzel real quick, too, because anybody with Crosby makes him look good. I mean, Zach Astor-Reese wasn't a big star in Wilkes-Barre-Scranton. They brought him and put him on the Crosby line, and he's getting points galore. So, I mean, there could be somebody for you there.
Yeah, Matt, you got anything for hockey this year?
Well, I just think that they're going to be in a much better position this year than they were last year going off the back-to-back cups. And I think just that burnout of playing deep in the playoffs, I think they're going to come out in a better position to be successful this year because they've had the full off season to recoup and kind of evaluate where they're at roster-wise.
I think that's the key. If they would have made it one more round, I think it wouldn't feel so exciting this year because of that other deep run. Them getting eliminated relatively early, I think, allowed them to recharge and get ready for another run. So, might as well transition now. Getting into the Steelers, we've been putting it off, it feels like, because it's bad. They lost to the Chiefs. We mentioned it at the top of the show. They looked awful. I looked through their schedule. They have the Buccaneers Monday night. They have the Falcons coming up, and I'm missing one team in between them. But they could start, I know it's not technically 0-5, but 0-4-1 before they get back to the Browns or whatever other conference team they play, Ravens or Bengals. So you have a couple teams here, chances to get wins, and the defense has been so bad. The offense right now is, I think, 9th in the league in scoring, and is it 2nd in yards?
Mm-hmm. Something
similar to that. So it's not the offense. You guys had the same issue last year. Everyone forced out the offensive coordinator. They said that he needed to get the killer bees in it and all this other stuff in the playoffs, but it's never been the offense. The offense hasn't been a problem since Ben's been there. Get some defensive help. They're in the 20th. I think I saw in the AFC, the defense is ranked 14th out of 16th. That's not Steeler defense. That is not Steeler defense, especially because one of the two games you played was the Browns. The Browns, dude. They put you in 14th in the league. Give me a break. I mean, we talked about the AB stuff. I'm not worried about him. And Bell's not missing. It's not the offense. It's definitely the defense. They're awful against the run. And I think it's because they don't have speed in the secondary, so they're compensating. And once you start to move your linebackers back, you open yourself to a whole lot of those RPOs, some draws, and just some straight-out sprints to the outside. You're not going to be able to get back on them. And then it opens up your whole offense. Look at what they did with Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs. that he ran a couple, or even Sammy Watkins ran a couple end arounds or jet sweeps, whatever they call them. And whenever you're doing that and spreading the offense out, and then you start to creep up, they just beat you over the top. I think they said it was blown coverage. That should never happen in the NFL. I get it one time, but 42 points worth? Man, I'm over it. That's all I have. Matt, what do you got?
I think you hit the nail on the head as far as a lot of the issues. It boils down to where I talked during high tempo with the offenses from certain teams that are picking up. I think you have the defenses for Pittsburgh. They haven't gotten creative. They've stayed with the same relatively stale defense. I think the way that they've evolved is that they've tried to go with more of a, without getting too technical, they're going with more of their like nickel package, where they're trying to get more defensive backs on the field. And maybe part of that is a reason of compensating for the injury to Shazier at the end of last season and not getting the depth that they felt like they needed at the linebacker position. By going with more linemen, trying to get more defensive backs on the field and thinking, well, we'll put more speed out there, but it hasn't translated into consistently stopping some of these other offenses.
Yeah, Rick, what are your thoughts?
I have a couple different ones. To go back to your stats, Richie, here are some right now. Points per game, 29th. 29 points. That's 9 best in the league. Their pass yards is second. Yards per game, they're number 1. But here's a weird one. Even with all those, we're number 1, number 2. Time of possession, 28th in the league. So our time of possession isn't good, so we're leaving that defense out there. And the problem is the defense isn't stopping them. They constantly get first down, first down, first down. Mahomes was great at getting that first down. It always seemed like there was a wide open guy. And I mean, we didn't learn this against Jacksonville. You didn't learn it against New England, and you didn't learn it against. And I'm going to give Andy Reid some credit, because Andy Reid gets made fun of because he's terrible in the playoffs, which is correct. But he's good during the regular season. He knew how to beat the Steelers. He looked at those tapes, and you had to know, well, if Gronk could get open, why can't Travis Kelce? I mean, throw it to my big guy who can catch balls. Big guy catches balls. It's like not hard, like how to beat the Steelers. Like we've seen this, over and over again. Throw it to the big guy. Throw it to the big guy. Do an end around because they can't get there in time. Throw. And teams that have multiple wide receiver weapons, like Kansas City had Watkins, had Hill, Kelce. I mean, just spread them all out over the field, and one of them's bound to get open. And then we made Mahomes look good. And why isn't Keith Butler being called out? Like, Keith Butler, you run like an defense, again, like it's Madden rookie level, like all your guys have no idea. And John Bostic was covering Kelce on numerous plays. That was just total mismatch. And if you think that's a good matchup, go back to the drawing board. I mean, that was awful.
But you got to remember that Tomlin is a defensive coach, and he came in as a defensive-minded coach. And Pittsburgh was all up in arms over him changing because he was a Tampa 2 guy and liked the 4-down lineman, and was talking about how, like, a lot of Pittsburgh people were worried or had concerns when he was hired that he was going to try to run that same system when we had LeBeau and the 3-4 defense going. So I think you're dealing with this mishmash now of trying to figure out what to do, and you're getting nothing accomplished.
Yeah. But at least when LeBeau was there, you had a consistent unit of good players, and they worked together, and there wasn't big plays and non-stop first downs. They could get the ball and get off the field. And, I mean, the other thing is, and I want to mention it, is Chris Boswell is awful right now. You had 3 kickers lose their jobs on Monday. 3 kickers were out of jobs. I don't know how we didn't have a 4th one, because I would have brought in a kicking thing in. And then at Tomlin's press conference, we're going to bring in some punters this week. Maybe. I mean, our guy kicks 20 yards. Again, I know I've said this to you guys numerous times on texting. I'm like, I could go kick 20 yards right now, and I haven't kicked the ball in 3 years. I can go kick a ball 20 yards on a punt right now. Maybe I'll take a video this weekend of me with the XFL football and go kick 20 yards at like a local high school field over the weekend. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm tired of seeing this and everything. Did you see the Monday night game where the Seattle guy kicked 10 yards? He had a punt for 10 yards. True story. You got to look it up. 10-yard punt. He shanked it off the side of his foot. Where are the good punters nowadays?
Well, shanks I understand, but when you're consistently doing it, what do you do at practice all day? Does no one watch and clock your hang time? I feel like that used to be a thing. And maybe they're playing around with too many stupid drills and they're not doing enough live game kicks, but you're kicking things right. I had notes on it. There were how many games decided? Browns lost their game. They could have had their win with the missed field goal. The Packers-Vikings game was almost unwatchable. There were at least, 3, maybe more missed field goals. Mm-hmm. Some of them were chip shots. How can you make it into the NFL if you can't make, what's the extra point now, 30 yards? 35? You can't make a 21-yard field goal? Like, that's your whole job. What do you do all day? It's frustrating, and Pittsburgh's not going to get rid of them because they're going to use the same excuse that has been floating around. It could have been the stadium. You know, they were in Pittsburgh, Rick. Don't you know that there's some winds that get drafted off the Three Rivers there?
Yeah, but they built up the freaking stadium because they put those more seats in. They went from 40-something, seats. I mean, I'm tired of hearing that excuse too. Somehow their kicker made all his kicks. Come on, it's got to be both ways. The street's got to be both ways.
Well,
who do you think? Why is he making his kicks and Boswell shanking everything? And Barry, I don't know where he's kicking.
It could come from the top down. They have to practice that stuff before they get out on the field. So just going around, let's look at the bottom teams. You have the Bills 0-2, Raiders 0-2 with our boy John Gruden. Browns and Steelers basically 0-2 with their tie. Texans, Giants, Cardinals, let's see what else. Lions, and that's it. So look at the company that the Steelers are in. They've never been down that low in the same breath as the Browns. And I hate to say it, the Lions with Matt Patricia. You hire a new coach, you've looked bad. They're probably behind us in the defense for sure. I don't know about that, but John Gruden, looking at him, I know we still have a guy that wants to chat that up on Twitter about John Gruden, and I still stay behind him. That was another one. Wasn't that a field goal game? I think the Broncos made theirs, though, at the end to seal the win. Yes. So that very well could have been another missed field goal that went Gruden's way. I just don't know. Kicking, it seems like it used to be automatic in the league. Did they change the balls? Is this another baseball thing where they juiced them?
No, but you get your own you get your own balls to kick, though. So it's not like you have to kick with the other team's ball. It's the balls which you inflated, Tom Brady, that you get to kick with. So you should already know and have them already practiced and kick with. So I don't get it. I just don't understand. And by the way, here's another thing. Raiders let Janikowski go. He's in Seattle now, and he kicked the game-winning field goal. It wasn't game-winning, but he kicked a field goal and actually gave him the win. Did you see? Oh, by the way, look up pictures of Sebastian Janikowski. Dude looks like he's completely out of shape. Right. There is no shape.
That's been the past 20 years.
Polish power.
Dude, that's not Polish power. That's like Twinkie power. And that's a box of Twinkies, not even just a package. Dude,
no, it was well known that he was like a professional drinker from Poland and was just drilling the football. He was there for one job.
He's still doing it in Seattle, so they went and overpaid and got him. So maybe people like Seattle are thinking, hey, we'll get this guy and we know he's good.
Do you think? All right, so going to Monday for the Buccaneers, what's your prediction, Rick?
42-28, Tampa.
Matt?
Ryan Fitzpatrick, 4 touchdowns.
I like the 35-28. I think it's going to be a little bit closer because Pittsburgh still manages to score enough on offense to make it happen. But I just don't see them stopping.
I don't know. Just think about this, though. You guys both predicted over 30-something points for the Buccaneers against the Steelers' defense. Even 5 years ago, that would not even have been close to the prediction. Every score would have been under 21 for the opposing team. So it just shows how far the defense has fallen. And I'll throw mine out there. I think the Bucs win. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be close to yours, Matt, but I think it's a field goal win. I think it's like 31-28 or something. Could be 38-35. But it's going to be somewhere around there where I think it's a field goal win and the Steelers just can't get it done. Had some comments. What's up? The first one, one of the Pittsburgh punts, Rick, led to that safety. Since you're calling out the punters. They also said that I'm wrong on the offense for the Cleveland game. All those turnovers gave that game away. But that was more on Ben than so much the offense. He was forcing stuff, and it was in the rain. Could have been on the play calling more so than just the offense as a whole in the rain. Let's see what else. Anything else? A ton of comments, so it's tough to read through. No one's giving credit to Andy Reid.
I just did. I gave credit to Andy Reid. He knew how to beat him. Travis Kelce.
That might have been a while ago.
Okay.
I will say that I think Shazier's where you miss out on the Kelce because you take away the speed and the size to cover someone like that. And that's where the new draft pick, Edmonds, he needs to step up and fill that role because, let's be honest, Shazier's probably never going to play again.
No, his career's over. But here's the thing about
But he said he was going to, and we used hashtag Shaleeve.
Oh, my God. I want to get my Barry comment in here. He has 12 punts. Only one is inside the 10. He only has 1 out of 12 inside the 10. He has 1 touchback. If you remember, that was the one where he kicked it through the end zone, and that was the 59-yard punt. So that's his long right now is a 59. So it wasn't for that 59 that he kicked through the end zone.
So wait, Rick, you're saying 1 out of every 10 punts he causes a safety?
No, 1 out of 12 he had got inside the 10.
1 out of 12, but that one led to a safety. So 1 out of 12 punts for his equals 2 points for the Steelers.
It did lead to a safety, but then again, who says that let's say Kareem Hunt runs for a 98-yard touchdown? Doesn't matter where you put it. The defense got the safety. Barry helped. I'll give you credit. Barry did help out, but the defense gives it credit for the safety, though. But, yeah. Man, whatever.
You get so mad about punters, dude. I've never seen you like this. This is almost as bad as the Penn State stuff when you get all fired up about Pitt.
Okay, here's the thing. I'll compare it to the punter from the Tampa Bay. He only has 7 punts this year. Barry has 12. And this guy he's averaging 43, so he's doing a little bit better. And his long is only a 53. So his consistency is better. So if you look at that, remember, Barry has that 59-yard punt, which is an abnormality. See, I'm using my stats class here. I paid attention. And see that abnormality. So the 59 screwing up all these 30s that he has, so it's bringing it back.
I don't know. He did punt in that rain, though, for the Browns. I don't know what the Tampa Bay played in. Did they have that or not? I can't tell.
I didn't know the weather forecast, so they still won. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 4 touchdowns in every game so far, so they must be doing something right.
Did you guys happen to see Fitzpatrick's interview from last week?
Yes. Awesome.
Where he's looking awesome? I know, I'm very intimidated. That's why I picked Buccaneers this week. Otherwise, I would never have picked them. If they would have went with Jameis, I would say the Steelers are going to win. But I think they're going to go with Fitzpatrick, and I think he has that swagger that they need.
Well, you're stealing Deshaun Jackson's clothes and just wearing it out during your press interview?
Well, Deshaun Jackson wants him the quarterback.
Yeah.
So when you have the locker room like that, it's going to be very tough for Jameis. That is how you lose a division. If they start some quarterback battle and they start trying to force Jameis into the game, that team will implode. I can guarantee that. Because right now they're feeding off his swagger.
You're absolutely right, and I think that it helps them at this point to ride the hot hand. I mean, when you have Fitzpatrick, who the knock on him has always been, when he was with the Jets, he was always throwing like bonehead interceptions, and he's obviously protecting the football right now. So he's doing the things that he needs to do to clean up the offense, and he's taking care of the ball. Why not ride the hot hand?
Well, I think that reminds me of our boy Sam Darnold. He went back to his old boneheaded self with 2 picks or 3 picks last week, costing the Jets a game. You can't do that in the NFL. So I think it's kind of a rookie thing. You either learn and get past it, which it looks like Fitzpatrick might have, and it's very tough to do that when you're with the Jets. And what weapons do you have around you?
Yeah, you got to remember who he's played for in his career. He's played for Cincinnati when they were down, Buffalo, who's been down for years except for last year, Tennessee, Jets, and now with Tampa. I mean, this is probably the best team he's played with.
I'll be honest, I could only name 2 of them. I thought he was only with the Buffalo and the Jets. So,
I mean, this has got to be the best team he's played with. You got to remember, he's one of the smartest players in the NFL. He's a Harvard graduate, folks. Remember that. Harvard graduate.
U.S. News Report, huh, Rick?
Yeah. So. And I mean, he's 8, and we talk about the interceptions. He only has 1 this year. He's 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. And you want to know what his percentage passing is? Ben has a 61 completion percentage. You want to guess what his is? It's insane.
73.
78.7.
Ooh, I was only 5 off.
79. You want a 79% completion percentage passer to come, and you have to go to Tampa. You have to go to Tampa, Pittsburgh, and try to beat a guy who has a 79% completion percentage. Best of luck to you.
Well, Rick, let's not get carried away. Tampa doesn't have that many fans. That's basically Pittsburgh South.
That is Pittsburgh.
That
That's
or
like
Miami.
It's retiree Pittsburgh area. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people coming from Bradenton and Sarasota, which is like Pittsburgh home bases, driving up the hour and a half to Tampa. I mean, but we'll wait and see. I still like Tampa. They got a lot there.
All right, last thing I have. What are you going to say, Rick?
Go ahead. I was going to say they have 3 receivers right now over 150 yards. So same exact thing that we have.
I know we're going
and
long.
There's nobody crying there.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to quarterback play and defense, and I would give quarterback play a push unless Ben goes crazy again and throws a bunch of interceptions, and then it comes down to defense, which we'll lose. So that's pretty much a game. The last thing I had for the NFL is Hall of Famers are threatening to boycott NFL activities until they're given insurance and salaries, which it's mind-boggling that they don't already have this. Some of those guys, they show all the time. Like, how many times do you see Jim Kelly's thing going on? I mean, there's a ton of other ones. They're always interviewing Jim Brown, which they all can always find him. It's like he has his own bat phone. Like, Jim Brown, get him out here to get his take on this. And some of the other ones, too, like the ones that used to do some of the commentary, like, I don't even know. Like Boomer
Dan
and them.
Fouts is still doing commentary. He's an NFL Hall of Famer.
Boomer's out there. Is he Hall of Fame?
He's in the Hall of Fame. Theismann used to, but he doesn't anymore. Marino used to. He doesn't anymore.
Yes.
Ditka, does he still work for ESPN? I don't watch ESPN anymore, really. So
Yeah, I don't watch it either.
Michael Irvin's a Hall of Famer. So, I mean, we have to see him and have him talk to Steve Smith. That's just embarrassing.
Which I think they had a feud for a while. It's hard to know. Is Ray Lewis in the Hall of Fame yet? Because he's on there.
Yeah, he stabbed his way into it.
So is Randy Moss now. Charles Woodson will probably be in if he's not in already. They're all on one of the shows together, I think.
They're on ESPN.
So it's surprising that they don't. And they can do something just like a lot of coaches do. Why not just give them a certain salary? Like, hey, you're going to be at all these NFL speaking engagements. You get a stipend, kind of like I don't know, some type of Social Security. You get this much a month. If you're getting an actual paycheck, if you have a job, then that stops until you lose that job. So you get hired by ESPN for $5 million, then you're not going to get this retirement check until you're actually retired. Just do it that way. That way, if a guy wants to go do a commentary thing or get hired as a sportscaster, then they don't have to worry about them getting paid out of the fund. But you can't tell me they can't throw these guys a couple couple grand a month when their television contract's like $7 billion or whatever it was, $2 billion, $7 billion. Crazy. So I applaud him. The other one that's going to be coming up is the Heisman winners. Like I'm sure they're only getting paid very small amounts for those Heisman House commercials and everything else. A lot of probably, I would say it maybe a decent amount of overlap from the ones that you remember from the Heisman commercials. They're also in the NFL, like Charles Woodson. Who else do they have? Bo Jackson wouldn't be in the NFL Hall of Fame though.
Marcus Allen's in both.
Marcus Allen's in both. What about Herschel Walker? He's probably not in both.
Herschel Walker's not in the NFL Hall of Fame.
What about Tony Dorsett? Is Dorsett? I'm thinking of the ones that are actually
Dorsett's in both.
That are actually in the Heisman House commercials a lot.
There aren't that many.
Desmond's not in both, is he?
Desmond's not in both. Roger Starbuck's not in the commercials.
Yeah, it's very hard to walk the line because you don't know. Is it only Hall of Famers that deserve to get paid? It's just a weird thing, the NFL, and I think that's where they're going to cross the line. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give them credit. I think there should be insurance. These guys are risking. I mean, I know I said it before on past episodes. You can find it. If you're a major leaguer and you play one inning, you get medical insurance for the rest of your life paid. I know a guy. He lives in my hometown. He had some back problems. He got surgery done, and I said, "Oh, that's great. Your company's paying for you." He goes, "No, Major League Baseball is. They're paying for me." I would have never got it. He goes, "I don't have to pay for it because he played 4 years. He was an up and down, call up, call down guy, you know." So, I mean, but hey, he gets insurance for the rest of his life. I mean, these NFL guys are dying left and right. I mean, every time, it seems like every week I'm reading about this guy's dead or that guy's dead. And I mean, and the problem is with the NFL Hall of Fame, the guys that they put in, there's been some questionable people they put in. And I think the NFL is trying to stay away from certain images. Look, O.J. Simpson was in the Hall of Fame at one time.
Did they kick him out?
I think he got kicked out. I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know they could kick you out.
I mean, people. Okay, here's some easy ones to pick on. I mean, O.J.'s one. Lawrence Taylor's had some problems in his life. Michael Irvin's had some problems in his life. Randy Moss has had some problems.
Marvin Harrison killed that guy.
Marvin Harrison, there's a question mark right there. There's so many guys with question marks. I mean, I like Mike and the way he's taking a stance. He goes, "I'm not showing up to anything. I'm not showing up to anything," and he doesn't. If you watch back at the last couple years of Hall of Fame, he hasn't shown up. He says until they get insurance. Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka doesn't go to the Hall of Fame. That's what the player, the All-Famers.
And where did he go to school, Rick?
I don't know what. I don't know that off the top of my head. He played for the Chicago Bears. But he has his restaurant. I ate at it once. Delicious. Recommend. It's a Rick Mishler delight to eat there.
Write this down. Rick's going a hardcore for a pit guy. Never seen such a glowing review.
That's what you got to do. Boycott the Hall of Fame induction. Just boycott it. Don't go.
Rick, 3 weeks ago you were making fun of Terrell Owens.
Those guys get free meals. They get yucked up. They do autograph signings. They're in the parade. They get like free golf I think it's Friday they golf on, if I remember the schedule. No, Thursday. Thursday they get free golf. I mean, there's just so much stuff, but that's really how you make a difference. You got to make a statement. You got to be like Ditka. Have a bunch of
What about my man Terrell Owens? He just did that same thing.
Well, he did it because he was full of himself.
Oh my gosh, moving the chains, Rick. He doesn't know where he can get on your good side.
He's not doing it for the insurance. He's not helping out his former guys that are losing their lives and they're battling problems. I mean, how many guys? I mean, I always bring up Justin Strelzik because you can still watch that tape on YouTube of him flying down that road. But I mean, how many guys like that are dying and then need the health insurance and they aren't getting it?
Well, let's be honest. I never watched his TV show, so maybe him and Ochocinco
if you have time,
cover some of that stuff.
Yeah, if you will have time, there's a little Justin Strelzik story. You can find it on YouTube. Watch it. It's sad, depressing, and everything. But I mean, that's the people who you got to be fighting for. The Hall of Famers. This is why I think they're a group to help and hurt. they're going to make their money because so many of them are very well known. Mike Ditka's well known. Joe Namath is still alive. Montana's still alive. I mean, these guys are going to be making money if they want to or not. They can show up to autograph signings. Look, Montana was doing Skechers commercials.
Montana was doing that one commercial. It might have been Skechers. It might have been a credit card company where he throws the ball. And I lost so much respect for him because I saw
American
that one. He like breaks a vase or something.
Yeah. I think it's American Express. But, I mean, they could get things like that. It's where the average common player that needs the help more than them. But I agree. Some of them need help, too. I mean, I know there's some players out there in the NFL Hall of Fame that are in their 60s and 70s that aren't in good shape right now. So, Chris Dolman's one. I saw him about a couple months ago, and I mentioned to Mrs. Rick, who's watching this right now, I said, he's not looking too good. You know, last time I saw him, and he was trying to sign a football. And they actually had to have him grab the football with one hand and another person grab the other hand because he was shaking so bad signing the autographs. It's sad. It's sad what these people, what they're like nowadays in their lives. They're a shell of who they were, to be honest with you.
Hey, we had a comment on OJ. He's still in the Hall of Fame. They said that's fake news.
He is still in the Hall of Fame, but I think his bust is not there.
Are you sure he didn't sell it, though?
I think... No, somebody stole it and threw it on one of the Canton roadway.
Rick, if it's stolen,
they found it in the gutter.
Was him. He stole his own Heisman Trophy after he sold it. So
that's true too. Yeah, but I think his bus was stolen out of the Hall of Fame and thrown in a gutter, if I remember, because like it hit like police blotters that it was stolen, so they threw it on off a roadway.
All right, we went long on the NFL. Let's transition. We'll hit college football real quick before we hit the end of the show. Big Ten football. Awful weekend. Awful. 7 teams lose to unranked teams is like the first time ever. And I know that it's due to expansion. There being so many teams. Other than what, Penn State looked good against a lower opponent. They have to play Illinois. And Illinois looks surprisingly decent. So maybe Lovie Smith finally has something going on. I think that...
No,
maybe,
he doesn't.
You don't think he does?
No. He's on the list of teams that still have not yet played a Power 5 team. So they're 2-1 and they haven't played a Power 5 team yet.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I just saw a lot of Illinois' hype.
Because Illinois is there, Wisconsin's 2-1, Minnesota's 3-0, and they haven't played a Power 5 team yet.
Well, Wisconsin, you can count BYU because SEC counts BYU as a Power 5 team. So...
They're in the top 25 now. They're at number 24.
Well, it does just mean more there.
But I don't know. It's so hard to straighten things out now. Michigan plays Nebraska. That might be another one to watch if you don't think Illinois is going to be competitive with Penn State. I think this week's going to be pretty much a bust. I don't know if there's any other big primetime Big Ten matchups. Ohio State, they have the talent right now to do whatever. If you watch a TCU game, that is what happens when one team has 30 level talent, top 30 talent compared to top 5 talent. You can hang around. You can pull out every trick in the book to get the lead. But once their athletes get settled in, you're done. You're toast. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for anyone to beat Ohio State, especially if Urban comes back and it looks like that thing all blew over with him. He put out another memo about it saying that he reiterates that he doesn't condone domestic abuse or whatever he said. I didn't read the whole thing. But they're definitely going to be the team to beat. I don't even know. Rest of it. Maryland looked like shit. They got killed by Temple. How can you beat Texas? Think of how good that win would be. Maryland beats Texas. Texas goes and beats USC. Blows them out. That would look like a great win for the Big Ten. Wrong. Because Maryland loses to Temple. You can't make it up. It's like you get one ahead. You're like, oh, that's another big, strong team in the Big Ten East. That's going to definitely boost up Penn State's schedule, right? Wrong. Wrong. I don't even know what to think at this point. Heaven forbid Penn State plays a close game with Maryland now. Because then you know it's going to start. Temple is the best team in the state. That's That's what's going to go around. So that's all I have. Rick, you have anything to add to the Big Ten?
Wow. Thanks, Big Ten, for losing every game this weekend. Thanks for giving it a shot. Penn State will win this weekend. Come on. I mean, I'm giving Nebraska a win. Ohio State
Well, you're giving
win.
Nebraska a win over Michigan?
No. Who did I say Nebraska? I meant Michigan.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nebraska just lost to Troy, and they're on a walk-on quarterback. They're going to have a brutal year.
Yeah. Michigan's definitely winning, but Ohio State's definitely winning. Michigan State's winning. I'm calling an upset. If you want to watch a Big Ten game and like the Big Ten, your game is Wisconsin going to Iowa. Vegas is giving 3 points to Wisconsin for some unknown reason. Take it. Iowa's going to win. Big win at home. Kudos, Iowa. Go Kurt favorites.
Who are they giving the points to?
They're giving 3 knocking 3 points to Wisconsin.
So Wisconsin's the favorite, -3, right?
Wisconsin's the favorite by 3 points. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I don't even know how. Iowa, well,
don't know how.
Parents' magic.
Iowa should be the favorite. And to be honest, if the Big Ten wants to save any face, Iowa should win the West because Wisconsin still has to come into Ann Arbor, and they still play Penn State, right?
You have to come to Penn State, too.
I don't think they win both those games.
No.
I could see Wisconsin losing both of them. And then what? Then we're in the same predicament as other conferences where Wisconsin wins the West, and they're sitting at 9-3 or whatever the record would be. Or worse. They lose to Iowa here, it could be worse. So if you're a fan and you want Big Ten in the playoffs and you want whatever team you cheer for in the East, cheer for Iowa to win out because I don't think they have as many crossover games. I don't think they play Michigan. I don't think they play Penn State. Or do they play Penn State?
Who?
Iowa.
We don't have them on the schedule.
So their only crossover should be Ohio State. So even if they drop that one, you're still looking at a 10-1 team or 11-1 team.
We do play Iowa this year. I apologize.
So maybe they don't play Ohio State.
And they have to come here too. They have to come. Anybody who's good at this year, except for Michigan, everybody else has to come to Penn State. And that's going to be the thing that's going to set up for Penn State is all these teams have to come into Penn State. We got to come to Happy Valley, see all of our white shirts, come, smell the manure with all the fields and everything around us, and then you have to play us. It's going to be a tough time on that plane ride back home. So,
yeah, I'm looking it up. I think, I was wrong. It is Penn State, so they don't play Ohio State. So they only play one of the top 3 teams from the East, and I don't think they play Michigan State either. So if you want to cheer for a strong team from the West, cheer for Iowa to only lose that one game. If they lose at Penn State, even if they beat Penn State and that's Penn State's only loss, Penn State would still be in the championship game. Then they could get that revenge in the championship game back against Iowa head-to-head and most likely make the playoffs. So that's what you want. You do not want a Wisconsin sitting there at 9-3 or 8-4 or whatever to help boost your schedule because it's not going to get you in. It's the same knock on Clemson. Clemson will transition here to the ACC. Clemson has no ranked opponent left on their schedule. None. Soft as butter, the ACC right now. They're just going to cut through that. It's going to be undefeated. Matt, you want to talk on Florida State?
Well, before I get into that, I do think that Clemson's going to they're going to mow through the rest of the ACC, and I think it's due to the strong recruiting that Clemson's been doing. And I think the SEC, when you boil it down, is more than likely going to end up with two teams in. It'll more likely be another Georgia, Alabama. Now, whether the playoff committee sets the table so that you have, I'm sure they'll do it similarly, where they'll have opposite sides so that if Alabama and Georgia were to win their first round, that it sets it up for a rematch of last year's championship. I could see that potentially happening, that scenario happening. With watching the Florida State game, the old saying, you reap what you sow, is definitely true. Or if you just sit at home and do nothing, then you end up with terrible line play like we saw on Saturday. And what makes it absolutely worse is when you have guys that are transitioning in and out that are former defensive linemen that are now being forced into offensive lineman roles, and you're playing second, third string guys. It's really tough to watch. Actually, I'm surprised that you don't see reports going out of full-on fistfights between the offense and defense right now at Florida State, because defensively, all things considered, they played their asses off. And granted, it was Syracuse, who hasn't had that win since the 60s, but the defense did its part consistently for all 3 weeks. Florida State consistently is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and they have the skill guys to do it, but I don't think that they don't have the offensive line to get the job done. So one of the things that if Willie Taggart is listening to our show right now, this is my personal suggestion to help get the team out of this funk. Use your perimeter players, throw screens. Don't use screen passes. Take the pressure off Francois. Don't have him do these drop back passes like Jimbo Fisher had, where he got sacked like 750 times. They keep saying about, like, everything that I've been reading shows the offensive line is an issue. Well, how do you compensate for a poor offensive line? Well, one of the things is you move the quarterback, you use more rollouts and sprint action, so that you're running away from a lot of these guys. You're changing. So for the most part, defenses have been teeing off, and they completely run right through the middle of the defense because the offensive line's struggling with basic pass protections. And it's causing so many predictable scenarios where they can go get killed. If they get themselves into some short yardage situations, then now you can kind of play with some shorter passing. You can do some different things and try to use all these skill guys that we have. But the skill guys can't make plays because till Francois gets in his drop back, he's getting sacked, and it doesn't do him any good. I think if they change things up, they stand a chance. Otherwise, it's going to be a brutal season. I would say to any offensive line recruit, if you're looking to immediately play, maybe call 1-800-Tallahassee, because there's 5 open spots right now for top offensive linemen.
I will say, very thorough and in-depth analysis there, Matt. But unfortunately, Florida State's not going to be a factor this year. And
no.
I'll go with your point. I think the NCAA is going to try to avoid 2 teams from the same conference. May it happen? I don't know, because it depends on 2 things. First, I think this year they're not leaving out the Big Ten no matter what. They definitely made a mistake last year, and I think after the Big Ten swept their BCS bowl games or New York Six, whatever they called them, they know that the Big Ten was in their ear saying, look, you made a mistake. So and I'll put it on record, if Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State wins the Big Ten, they're in the playoffs. Unless there's some weird, funky business where Penn State beats Ohio State again and Ohio State has 1 less loss. But right now, they're going into Big Ten play even. Whoever wins out of those 3 is in. If Wisconsin would win the championship game, maybe like 9-3 over whoever, that might kick them out. But right now, they're a lock. Clemson's a lock. SEC champ is a lock. Then you're throwing in a couple different wild cards here. Notre Dame. If Michigan wins, does Notre Dame bump them if they have the same record? And what's happening in the Big 12 and the Pac-12? Pac-12 could be eliminating themselves here. If Auburn ends up, 8-4 in the SEC, they already beat Washington. So is Washington going to get in whenever everyone knocked them for having a weak schedule last time? They would be left out. USC just got killed by Texas. TCU just got killed by Ohio State, and Ohio State outclassed them so bad that in the second half that people forget that TCU was in control of that game. If you read a bunch of the hot takes from people that didn't watch the game, they wrote how Ohio State just outclassed them. That wasn't true for most of the game. They just don't have the depth to compete. They're only recruiting top 30 classes, and that doesn't get it done. That's more or less going to get you upset by the Iowa States or BYUs like Wisconsin. If you're recruiting on that level, you have to bring your A game the whole game. So if one of those teams, if Oklahoma wins out, they're most likely in. If they lose a game, does their conference get eliminated just because of how poor their conference looked in interconference play? And same with the Pac-12. If USC wins it all, they're not making it. If Texas wins out somehow, you can't tell me they're going to get in with that Maryland game. So Oklahoma, they have to be scared because I think with one loss, they're out. Especially this Notre Dame, their schedule, they play Stanford, which is a big Pac-12 elimination game. They also play Virginia Tech. Other than that, they have USC, but USC has already been shown a fraud. They have no other ranked games. Those are their 2 games, and I think they're coming up here the end of September and the beginning of October. October 6th, they play Virginia Tech. That is the weekend we'll know if Notre Dame has a chance to make the playoffs. Point there. By that time, we will know. I think Penn State will have already played Ohio State. It's either that weekend or the weekend before. So you'll have a clearer picture. If Ohio State comes in and beats them down, I think you're down to 2 teams in the Big Ten, and most likely it's Ohio State. Michigan would still have a long chance depending on if they would win out. And again, it's not going to be likely, just with the talent Ohio State has amassed. I did have one other stat in terms of recruiting. Only 6 schools right now in this recruiting class coming up currently has 2 or more 5-star players. Clemson is one of those. I believe they're the only one in the ACC. The rest are Michigan and Ohio State from the Big Ten. Then it is LSU, Georgia, and of course I'm not seeing the 6th one. It's not Alabama. So I don't think it was Florida State. Let's see if I can find it. And this is, of course, subject to change. But when you're getting 5-star guys like these schools are, that's when you see the jump in talent. And that's where Clemson is going to be able to stay up head and shoulders above. They don't play anyone outside of Florida State with nearly the talent they have. They don't play Notre Dame every year. So win that recruiting battle.
And that Notre Dame, I mean, it's speculative because Notre Dame has cycles where they're recruiting, but then their play on the field is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their recruits, they don't get the top 5-star recruits. I don't think their team this year has any 5-star recruits. So you're looking at, I really wish 24/7 would have put together their team talent composite already. They usually have it out by now. They've been doing it the past couple years, but they haven't had it out. So I don't know. Let's look. Clemson, Oklahoma's the 6th, a Big 12 team. So it's Clemson, Oklahoma, Michigan, LSU, Ohio State.
And Oklahoma might be that team that,
and Georgia.
If they end up losing, that may be the team that bumps, because that was the team last year that bumped the Big Ten out. So if Oklahoma ends up losing or it falls off somewhere along the lines, that could be where the Big Ten backs in.
Well, I think the Big 12 right now. This is how I see it: Big 12, SEC, ACC, and the Big Ten. I don't think you're going to have 2 SEC teams in. For the SEC teams to get 2 teams in this year, if they do, I think you're going to see a huge push for the playoffs to expand to at least 8. I would think that the schools are going to get together and force 16. And I'll tell you why. The lower conferences.
Unless something crazy happens, I don't see how either Georgia and Alabama are going to be left out. I think what they did last year and where they're at now.
I think what's going to happen is they're going to play in the SEC championship game. Mm-hmm. I mean, last year it took a fluke Auburn loss and Auburn winning out. Auburn already has a loss. Do you really think, did you see LSU's quarterback? Do you really think that they're going to beat Alabama? Like, it took a fluke for them to not play in that SEC championship game. I think those 2 teams have the top talent. I think that's basically the first play-in playoff game. Those 2 games. I think the other one that was scheduled to happen was Wisconsin versus whoever in the East, but that one's already shot to hell, and the rest of the other conferences don't have another marquee matchup. So that's the only championship game that I think is going to matter. And I don't think they take a loser of a championship game and put them in the playoffs. I mean, who's going to compete with Georgia? They would have to lose their division to get both in. One of them would have to lose their division. It's not going to happen.
I I don't know. Never say never, because I think if they're blowing teams out at the rate that Alabama is, and this, if there was ever a year for Florida State to suck, for as much talent as Alabama has right now, this might be the year to just tank it, because they just look dynamic in all phases of the game.
Well, I'll say this. If you're sitting there, and I think that would be the push. Let's say you're right. Alabama's blowing everyone out. They lose to Georgia in the championship game. But then you have Ohio State win their game, Oklahoma win their game, Clemson win their game. And they're all sitting there, could be undefeated, could be one loss. Obviously, if it's one loss, same as Alabama. There's no way the committee can say all these teams that just won their game. And, I mean, hell, it could be Washington, too. There could be a fifth team that only has one loss. There's no way they're going to put Alabama in, because it takes two. If that happens and Washington and Ohio State are left out, guarantee the Big Ten and the Pac-12 drop out of this playoffs, and it's over. The Big Ten makes the most money. If they get shunned, Ohio State will not be sitting out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. Bookmark it. If Michigan's close, they're not going to be. Those two schools aren't like Penn State, where they just took it and they were like chill with going to the Rose Bowl, whatever their fan base are. They will circle the wagons, and it will be over. If the Big Ten takes their check and goes home, and they say, hey, Pac-12, you want the Rose Bowl to be our national championship game, the NCAA figureheads and the ESPN execs would lose their minds. They won't let it happen. No way. It took them how long to get this together? No way it happens. So let's go. We'll get back into it in a couple weeks. We'll see what happens. It'll start to straighten itself out. Final round. I don't have anything else. Matt, you got anything?
Got homecoming Saturday night. Great fireworks, great football. Come on out, support the dogs.
That's Claysburg. Rick, you got anything final round? I see you have your notes out.
Yeah, I have my notes. I just thought of some more because I got told, because I forgot I'm not a Pitt homer. Dickup was actually one that was in both Hall of Fame. So
I thought we gave him as both.
We gave him Barry Sanders in both Hall of Fames, too. There was another one that popped up in my head. So Christian Yelich hit 2 cycles, something a little bit different. He is making a strong he's trying to make a strong deal to get the MVP. I'm giving it to Javier Baez. I think Javier Baez wins it this year for the Cubs. And I just want to wish best of luck to the Lancaster Barnstormers in the Atlantic League, one of my favorite teams. They're going for the Atlantic League Championship. For those of you who don't know, independent baseball, still a great thing to watch. A lot of guys who are in the major leagues right now played independent ball at one time when they lost their contracts to get back in. So I wish them the best of luck here in the playoffs. So they actually won tonight already. Penguins lost tonight 3-2. So that stinks that way, but I don't really care because it was all Scranton guys for the most part playing. No Crosby, no Malkin, no Kessel, no Murray, no Letang. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's early in the preseason.
All right. That wraps us up. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Southbound Sports, and Instagram, Southbound Sports, Twitter at SBound Sports. Jeff has been doing Spaces or Laces. If you follow this show on iTunes, you'll be getting those up. I think I usually get them added on Friday. If you subscribe to the YouTube, you can get them right away. And I think they post automatically on Twitter whenever he does them. So YouTube is Southbound Sports as well. Make sure you subscribe. We've been picking up a few subscribers there. Might be doing some extra stuff, so definitely check that out. But if you subscribe to the feed, you'll be getting everything. So definitely do that and tell your friends. And we will see you next week.